or a lot of times people will say a certain city or a certain town. For some reason, they heard that's the hot spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And even within a town, the rent prices can be dramatically different from one side of the town to the other side of the town.
Right. So today's guest is Joe Newtz, but Joe is a property manager. He works for a property management company and does all of their marketing, correct?
Right. I'm the marketing director for Premier Property Management Services.
Mm-hmm. And you're based out of Beaver County, but you do cover other areas, right?
Right. Our main office is in Beaver Falls, or more commonly called Chippewa, which is part of Beaver Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a branch office in Newcastle and a branch office in Hermitage.
Wow.
So we're covering a good part of the western part of the state, three counties that we have offices in, and we also cover Butler, a little bit of Allegheny, and of course Mercer County, which Hermitage is in, and Lawrence County, which Newcastle's in. So
Gotcha. Yeah, we cover a little bit of Beaver County and a little bit of Washington County and a very little bit of Butler County. But we've been in business since 2002, and we were just talking about your company. It's been longer than that, huh?
yeah, it's over 25 years now.
Hmm.
So it's been a long time.
Well, we met Joe through, I referred a couple properties up in Beaver County, and there might be a couple more
Yeah.
coming actually. Just it sometimes it gets hard for us to get up there, and I know when I don't have the resources and I can't give the best service, then I want to refer that business, because I'd rather have an unhappy, I don't want to have an unhappy customer. I'd rather turn them down than let them down. That's the phrase I always use. But
Nice.
so you're marketing director for Premier Property Management, and you manage the marketing ventures and implement the marketing plan. And you also have 30 years of business marketing experience.
Mhm.
And also you have some musical accolades I'd like you to talk about. How did you get into music and when did that start?
It's weird because I didn't in high school, just dabbled a little bit with guitar in college, but always loved music. Always loved music. Eclectic tastes from jazz to R&B to southern rock to regular rock. But at that time, I wasn't even allowed to see some of these concerts that came in, like Genesis and Pink Floyd. And yeah, so finally, when I'm like in my 30s, I think I finally saw Yes. Um, but yeah, it's always loved music. And here I ended up managing a band uh, shortly after I got married. And at that time, I had my own company, I had a financial company, and was able to do it. And was like, wow, this is really cool. And I did of course, the management of the band. So booked all the gigs, got to know all the uh, people with DVD, and set up all the gigs, and it was really cool. And I didn't really take much like in payment, except I wanted to buy my own nice guitar. I didn't want to have just the one you get in a you know Sears catalog or something like that. So basically, I always say my payment was my first Alvarez guitar,
That is cool.
and
That had to be a lot of fun. Like just meeting. Did you get to meet like I remember one of the celebrities from DVE was Scott Paulson.
I got
Remember
I
him?
yeah, you know what? It was neat at that time. If I called Gene Romano, he would pick up the phone. Chris Winter, the other DJs there, and of course Clark's were all the biggest name
Sure.
at that point in time.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and we would fill in if they would call and they needed somebody to play like at Monroeville Mall, uh, in the whatever area they had like for Christmas time or something like that, and the guys would always be like, this sucks, and then last minute we'd be waiting for the drummer to finally show up, and not knowing if we had a full band or not, and but those are all really good times. But yeah, staying up till I tell everybody staying up like in the strip when they had the um the different venues there, and it, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning when the fresh donut truck came, that was always the highlight of the night, and kept you up until
That would be
5.
my highlight, no
That,
doubt.
that little bit of sugar that kept you up to get the ride home to Beaver.
And you live in Beaver County, correct?
Yeah, I live in Beaver right now. Yeah.
Very nice. Do you have a family? Do you have
Yeah,
children?
family, kids. I was a single dad for what, 12 years. So there's two boys. So it was like three guys in the house. So
Mm.
it was. I always tell people not the cleanest place, but we I managed to get them out now. They're out of the house. So I'm a empty nester at this point. So enjoying that.
Yeah, my wife and I are too. It's kind of nice. We're still getting used to it because my daughter just finished her first semester and she's in her second semester at WVU. I have three daughters,
Oh,
so
wow.
a little different dynamic in
Yeah,
my household.
yeah.
So you live in Beaver, you own real estate in Beaver, correct?
I actually I own a property in Midland.
Okay.
Is where I
Mhm.
actually own the property. Just got a new tenant in just this month. So went through a whole process and was able to get a new tenant fairly quickly. We have a really good marketing process, and because the first time around, it seemed like it took long. Maybe it didn't take as long, but certainly seemed like it took a while to get them in. And depending on the year and the time, what's
Mhm.
going
The time
on,
of year.
because it was about the same time last year that I got somebody in, and with the weather and stuff like that, sometimes it's hard getting people in, and people aren't necessarily looking or wanting to move in the slush and snow, not knowing what it's going to be like. So with this weather we've been having recently, I mean, even now our company is just going crazy signing new leases. I think we had a crazy month in January, which just doesn't normally happen.
Mhm.
But we had a really great month. So take what we can get.
Yeah, we had a good run, and then I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing, just around I would say mid to late summer, it really slowed down. Like we were having a hard time renting and we had to reduce our pricing.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, because I've seen this happen in the past and it's been a while. And it's when the economy got hit back in like '08 or whatever. But did you guys see that also? Did you see a slowdown?
It's funny because, every Monday morning meeting, we bring up all the properties on the available list and of course all the ones on the turnaround list. Uh, and it's easy for the agents to say, hey, we need to reduce the price. We need to reduce the price. And I really try to shy away from that. What I've really found is um, we need to make the process easier for the owner, and we also have to, kind of I don't want to say it, to make sure the owner knows that they need to make their property quote rent ready.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they weren't doing that. So
Right.
when the agents are out showing the property, maybe there's just stuff that an average renter just.
That's such a good point. I mean, I had an owner reach out to me the other day. Well, my property manager showed it and we had rehabbed one of the units. It got done right and it's clean and done. And they had their own people do it. And I don't care as long as they do it, but it wasn't done. Our property manager went there, wasted her time. It was dirty. It wasn't completed. There was paint cans and stuff everywhere. I said, don't ever do that again. That's disrespectful to her time
Yeah,
and it's not fair. And we're not putting the best foot
right,
forward.
exactly.
So let's say somebody likes the unit and it's in disarray. What does that tell you?
Hmm.
So we want them rent ready. And that's definitely a key point in getting stuff rented quickly. So we, at all times, we really push to have properties ready to be rented before we show them.
Yeah, I mean, and especially if they're, in an average, price range. I know each market has a different price range, but if there's a property and it's a nice property, um, but again, it's the potential tenants are walking in and, like you said, they're seeing paint cans on the floor. They're seeing that it's dirty. Um, it just in this environment, because the renters have so many choices. Um, they are a little more, picky at this point. So, uh, even in the one I just rented out, I went to the dollar store, right, and I bought towels and the thing for the stove to put your
Mhm.
ladle
You did
on.
kind of a mini
I
staging.
mean, I think it cost me like what, $8, and I was like going crazy in the
Right.
dollar store, right? You always go crazy in the dollar store. So I'm like buying all this stuff, and just hung them on the oven door. There's new hand towels and stuff like that. And it's like, I know it had to make it a little bit
I'm
of
I'm
difference.
absolutely sure it did. We sell a lot of properties too. So sometimes I'll have them for sale and for rent at the same time. And we had one recently where it was staged. So we had the dining room, the living room staged, the kitchen, one of the bedrooms and the bathroom. They were all staged with furniture. And we rented it quick. And for like what we were asking, it was awesome. But the stage it cost, it was $1,500. So you wouldn't do that unless you're
Right.
selling the house, right?
Yeah.
But I think a mini stage like that's really important. Maybe putting some things in the kitchen, some towels, and add some color to the bathroom with a shower curtain and maybe a throw rug here and there or something. I think it adds.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to Kohl's and you get that 40% off thing or whatever, I'll go and look in the clearance and see if they have like shower curtains and stuff. So I mean, I bought some new shower curtains. Um, just stuff like I said. I don't know if you add it all up, if it was $50.
Yeah,
Um,
you just leave it there basically.
and I just
Except,
leave it
yeah.
there, yeah. And they have the little carpet things in front of the toilet and stuff,
Hmm.
and then I even leave the tags on so they know it's like not from the last tenant. This is actually a new Kohl's carpet. I don't know. It's just me. It's just me, and I don't know why more owners don't do something like that. Um, and perhaps it's, and I don't know if you see the same thing. It's so many owners from just all over the country, and they're buying properties sight unseen, so
All over the world. I mean, we
all over
have
the
a,
world,
yeah,
exactly.
they're just coming to Pittsburgh and all the affordable markets. And
Mhm.
it's becoming difficult for guys like you and I who want to buy properties because
Yeah.
I could buy 6, 7, 10 properties a year relatively easily 15 years ago. And I'd be happy to get two really, really good ones
Hmm.
in a year now. And that's becoming super difficult.
Right, and they're buying the
But I'm sorry to interrupt. What would your point was there's people coming in from all over and
yeah, and well, and to your point as well, they're coming in, they're buying property, which needs work, and of course they haven't seen
they
it.
haven't seen it.
So again, to local investors, that makes it a little bit harder because they're not buying it at the price that the out-of-state investor is buying it, because they already just put another, 10, 15, 20,000 into it, and they want to get their money back. Where if it's somebody locally, um, they would have known like right off the bat, here's what I need, here's what I need, here's what I can maybe put off till next year. Like my unit, it had a carpet in it, and I'm like, you know what, I did enough other stuff, in the house, and I said, okay, well, the carpet, you know what, I'll let it go until that first tenant moves out, and then that's on my list to get fixed. Um, and here I had an eviction, so I was kind of forced to. But man, when I put that new laminate in the living room and it matched the kitchen, and I walked in after it was done, and I'm like, I this is cool. I might want to live here. So it was it's definitely, we would know because we see it. We're local. And we do try to, give that advice. Sometimes we'll even go out and see some of the properties that they are looking at. Um, but just too many times they're just buying sight unseen, and then they're pick up the phone and they want to hire a property manager, and of course we want to help, but it just gets to the point where a lot of those relationships end up getting strained because uh, they are not getting the property rent ready. They're not doing the little things, and we're trying to tell them this is what you need to have done. This is what it needs to be rent ready, and then all of a sudden we're the bad guy because it's almost like we're costing them money or something like that.
Wish my wife was in here because she could tell you the stories because the salespeople sell the property. You know, we don't sell a lot of properties that we manage, but sometimes we do. But when I sell something, I make sure that it's a decent quality property, because guess who gets stuck with the garbage? And that's what happens. You get a salesperson. Not that all salespeople are misleading, but you know, sometimes they might stretch the truth a little bit. And that's also the owner's fault for not looking at the property and doing their due diligence. Like I got guys who live out of state, some out of country, and they've never seen the property. I'm like, you've never even been to Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
And they're like, nope. I'm like, well, that's a mistake, but I'll do my best. And I have to inspect every property now. I literally have to see it, because otherwise it's
The pictures don't tell the story, because
they
they're looking, you know, the pictures are looking nice, and is, you know, they're not telling you about the, you know, side of the roof that is patched, and the gas line isn't even hooked up, or you know.
Yeah, the pictures don't show the smell of mold. They don't show those things. They don't show the defects, because you can make, yeah, absolutely. We just took a couple on, and I was like, when I went to go see it, I was like, wow, this is not ready. And how do I present that bad news to someone?
Yeah, yeah, and then it's almost like you're, you know, fighting with a new prospect, because they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean that property's not? I saw the pictures. It's beautiful. What do you mean it's not?
Well,
You know,
let's talk about, how do you, when somebody brings a property, like I referred some to you, and I knew they were nice properties because I went and saw them. They were clean, they were neat. We were just having a heck of a time renting them. And do you physically go out, or do you have a team that goes out and they inspect before you decide to take them on as a client?
It's probably about half and half. There's some that we take on where they've already bought the property, so we really don't, you know, have too much of a say. The ones that are calling in and saying, "Hey, we're looking for a property," um, yeah, a lot of times we'll at least do a drive-by and see like what area it's in. And sometimes it's hard because they're already maybe occupied, and we'd have to make, you know, crazy arrangements to try to get in there if somebody's in there. And it kind of just doesn't justify the time, you know, for us, because we're not, you know, we're, you know, real estate agents. The agents are, you know, licensed, um, but it's not like they, you know, have all this time to go and inspect the properties. We do have an inspector that handles the, you know, move out inspections, um, that will do, and once, even in the lease, we provide one general inspection, you know, throughout the year, just to see if they are smoking. And they said they weren't smoking, if they have pets or not, which is a whole, we probably have another conversation just on pets. Um, but it's, you know, we have the company divided into teams, so that we have a marketing team with two leasing agents, and three, what you would call owner agents. And uh, the other side is the maintenance team, and they have a whole, uh, you know, list of stuff they have to do, and including, you know, working with all the vendors. And for a while, we had, of course, you probably know too, going through COVID was such a different time, uh, you know, with vendors and having available vendors, and they were, you know, kind of got backed up as well. So I think everybody kind of had, you know, maintenance issues, and now it does seem like it's, you know, we're getting more vendors, more contractors that are looking for work, and we've been able to bring some more on, so weren't stuck with just a few, because of course that drags the process on as well. So you have all these units on a turnaround list, and a couple contractors, you know, they're doing most of the work, and they just can't handle it.
Yeah, the workload gets out of hand, and we did have the problem too of just finding people. And now it seems like the economy slowed down, and you're seeing a lot more contractors available, which is kind of nice, I guess. But finding the good ones is always a challenge. We have a really good team too, and we do all of our repairs in-house, but we don't make our owners use our repairmen. If they have, as long as their person is licensed and they're insured and we can pay them and send them an IRS document at the end of the year, how much we paid. I don't care who you use.
Yeah.
As long as they're professional and they get the work done. But we talked earlier before we started recording, and you were saying you guys had grown because we'd been through growing pains. We've gone from, starting in 2002 to growing, overgrowing, bringing on the wrong clients, shrinking back. Did that a couple of times. And then now we realize over the past 6 or 7 years, we've probably been at right around 700 units. And we kind of stay there because I'm not actively really marketing. I'm the marketing team. This is me.
Yeah.
So it's just word of mouth. It
Yeah.
really is. And you guys had gone through something recently, and we were talking that you grew and then you had to, you just couldn't handle it, or you picked the wrong owners, or just a combination of growing too fast and picking the wrong owners and properties. So what happened? How did that pan out? How did that just start and end?
Well, I think with, cause of course as a marketing guy, I have the growth, mindset. So
Well,
my,
you did your job.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, grow, 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 redevelop, redesigned, our website, put marketing efforts into place. So we haven't had a, problem with leads coming in. We have problems with following up with everybody, as a matter of fact, because that's the key in the whole game is the follow-up. But nonetheless, we still since I've been there, we grew from 450 to over 900, and now we're back down, I think around 800 and some. So those learning experiences, like you said, it includes everything from taking on some uh, properties that maybe we shouldn't have taken on some owners that we shouldn't have taken on. Um, we've kind of got a little bit better of a handle now as far as who we want to take in, how we want to operate, how we want the system to work. We want it to really be a win-win. I always talk about I'm the big picture guy, right? So I'm the big picture guy. When somebody calls in and a lead calls in or gets transferred over to me or email, and I talk to him, I'm like, well, hey, I'm the big picture guy. All right. So I'm not going to get down and dirty with you. I'll get you to an agent to go.
Details is not my
Details
gig.
is not my game. All right.
Me
But
too.
I'm like, okay, here's the main thing, right? I said, if you want to hire us, you're going to pay us, and you're going to get your life back, right? You are going to be able to go buy other properties. You can, if you're out of state or whatever, if you're looking at this area and you just want to start dabbling in this area, that's fine. You can, hand that over to us and you go do something else. If you just want to, whatever you want to do, you're going to get more time to do it,
Mhm.
and there's a cost to it.
Well, sure. Yeah, yeah. On paper, it makes sense. You just have to, as an owner, you have to do your due diligence, buy the right property, use the correct numbers when you're analyzing the property, hire the right property manager, manage that property manager without micromanaging them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it should, in theory, work out. So now you have more time to either expand your portfolio or just expand your life.
Right. And if you look at,
It
just
always doesn't work out that way, but that's the way it's supposed to.
exactly. But the big story, the big picture is that if you have a property and the rent is, let's just pick a number, let's just say it's 900 a month, and you're paying us $90 a month to, manage that property. Uh, if you if your time isn't worth $90, uh, then you probably shouldn't, be in the business. So I always, when I'm ever at events and things like that, I'll mention that as an owner, one of the very first things you have to do is you have to calculate the value of your time. And if you value your time at, let's just say you value it at $50 an hour, that's what you feel that your time is worth, and you're spending 10 hours a month doing property management activities, from all these different things, these phone calls you're getting, coordinating maintenance, doing all those things. I mean, that's a lot more expensive than paying us. So and when that light bulb goes off, it seems like those people who are, that have that do-it-yourself mentality, which is fine. But when you start tracking the value of your time, it really makes a difference. And we hear that because sometimes, uh, we finally, we get that phone call, and it's that owner who finally says, you know what, I just want my time back. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to
Yeah,
do.
you have the resources. You're not just bringing the time factor to into it. You're also bringing your resources, your knowledge. As somebody that has the time, but they don't know what they're doing, it's double or triple or quadruple the time. Or if you don't handle an eviction properly,
Mhm.
and it causes you another month of delays, or it is what it is. And that's why we're really thorough when we do our screening now.
Yeah,
It's
we are too.
super important.
And they know the game. These tenants know the game.
We caught one the other day. We went on Facebook, and she was blatantly lying about some things, lying about where she lived, um, and I think she even had a pet,
Mm,
and she was lying. And it was like, "We're not renting to you." She's like,
yeah,
"Well, why not?" "Well, because of this." And then crickets. We never
yeah,
heard anything from her,
yeah,
because they do. You literally have to be. I tell my staff this: you have to be a private detective, a police officer, and you can't believe anyone. And it's really sad because we get new people when they come in, and they're like, "Oh, I really feel sorry for these folks." I'm like, "I used to."
yeah. And that's something that experience brings to the
Hmm.
table, because I think we all want to help people instinctively.
Yeah, absolutely. I still do it to this day, and sometimes it burns me, and sometimes it doesn't. But
Yeah.
it just that's why I don't know if you ever talk to like a police officer, and they're different. They look at things differently, and that's because of their view of the world is changed, because they see all the bad.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and
and that's we kind of do a little bit on our end too.
exactly. It's one. It's such a strenuous process, to go through, and you do have to wear all those hats. And we don't ever just base eligibility on income. We've been like that for a while, um, or even just on credit score alone. So we do really make sure we take the whole picture together. Because again, like everybody has life changes, right? People have gotten divorced, people have lost their job and had to restart, and things like that. So to take just one thing that's on the credit report, and create a denial, uh, it a lot of times just doesn't make sense. Um, the problem is that a lot of times the process, which is unfortunate for the owner. So when you do want to take that chance, and you feel for the people, and maybe they've had a great job their whole career. Um, they got divorced, they lost their job, and now they're looking for somewhere. And you kind of get that feeling. There's good person here. Um, we see the situation. We all have been through stuff. But taking that chance sometimes, no matter what, how if everything seems to work perfect, the problem is on the owner's side is, if that tenant doesn't work out, there could be anywhere from 1 month to 4 or 5 months between getting another tenant in there. And for owners, that's a really difficult task, because you don't know how much they trash the place. You don't
Hmm.
know, um, if they said they had a dog, didn't have a dog, but did have a dog, because the stuff's all chewed up, and they didn't smoke, but there's smoke all over the place. And you have to go in and clean all that out. And that, uh, as an owner, we try to let them know that, um, between the transitions, um, you're gonna have a where you're not making rent, you're not getting money coming in. So you need to have, your budget allocated. You need to have a decent slush fund set up.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier about having make as an owner, make sure you use the correct numbers.
Mhm.
People don't use the correct repair numbers, the vacancy numbers, the fudge factor. We had one lady, we had one guy that I think it was about 14 months.
Mhm.
He just he knew the system, and man, it just went on and on and on. He never paid a dime, and you'll never get any of that. So
Right.
let's talk about that, because you were talking about you You just evicted somebody, or you're in the process of it, and you're going to get a judgment, right?
Well,
you
I
might
I did evict them.
you got a judgment
Yeah,
against them.
and again, that's something that I didn't have to do myself, right? So, use the company resources. I paid a management fee to our company
Mhm.
to manage my property. And that just ended up being part of it, and went through the eviction process. We had uh, the girl that handles that go to the magistrate hearing. I went just to see like what this is all about, and they're not always friendly towards the owners, partly because of the way the laws are,
It,
maybe,
it depends on the magistrate.
and the
Yeah.
magistrate.
It depends on the judge. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so went through that process, and it went through again. I mean, start to finish. Again, I was by the time I was able to get another tenant in, this whole process was at least 3 to 4 months.
That's not a bad time, actually.
Which actually, yeah,
That's
which
not bad for turnover and
yeah,
remarketing and finding a tenant, move in. That's actually pretty good, because
yeah,
we've got judgments in the past. And then I was going to tell you, I had a funny story to tell you. So it was about one of our owners. We didn't we returned the security deposit in time, because if you don't return a deposit in time, the tenants can sue you for double the deposit. Where in the heck they came up with that, I don't know, but that's a law. And we did return it in time, or no, we didn't return it because they didn't provide a key and a forwarding address, which they're supposed to do, but the judge didn't see it that way. So it was like $10,000. It was a $5,000 deposit, because it was like a double deposit. It was a $2,500 rental,
oh,
and they had a pet and all that stuff. And so it was $10,000. And that the tenant got a judgment on the owner, which is unusual, right? It's the
wow,
opposite. The, and this owner has substantial assets,
yeah,
never had to pay anything. There's a judgment floating out there under his LLC, but I don't know when that, and he has since sold properties under the LLC. So let's say it was XYZ LLC, and he owned 10 properties, and one had a judgment
yeah,
on that LLC, never came up.
wow, yeah.
So that's
It's
well,
funny. Yeah,
when an owner asked me that, like, well, we'll get a judgment. I'm like, well, that and a freaking $25 gift card from Starbucks will get you $25 worth of coffee, because that's
exactly,
about it. So
exactly.
that's why the upfront, doing that due diligence up front, is super important. But it's still a crapshoot, and it is still a gamble, because there's only so much research you can do,
Yeah,
and legally, and just human resources, and just doing it. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of time.
and that's what you don't see when you watch the late night, TV infomercials on, buying real estate, and, all those types of things. That don't talk about all of these crazy things that happen. And until you go through them, uh, I guess you can learn, but there's a lot of people who just don't come back after they have that kind of episode.
I had a guy reach out to me the other day. I won't mention his name, but I help a lot of investors, and I said, look, man, I can't spend an hour on the phone with you anymore. With anyone anymore. I
Mhm.
have to charge.
Yeah.
I literally charged him $400. I said, because I've lost probably millions of dollars, at least hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars I've lost in real estate through the School of Hard Knocks.
Mhm.
I paid my tuition to the Ivy League school of schools, man. But
Yeah.
it's paid off for me. I'm happy to pay it, but I can't give that time anymore. Time is more valuable than anything. So I charged him $400, and we had a conversation. He's just getting started. He quit his job. I'm like, man, that's mistake number one.
Mm.
Quit his job. But you can always get a job, though, but in that hour, I could just feel the bubble burst, because I was saying, yep, that's not going to happen. You want to do that? That's not going to work.
Right.
That could work. That could work. That won't work. And you're not going to make any money for many years. So, and he was just like, wow. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll reach back out to you and let you know if I want to have another call.
Yeah. It's
So
tough.
do your homework. Don't, it's so easy to conceptualize real estate investment, because it's really simple.
Mhm.
Really simple, right?
It's not a hard concept. And you talk about, owning, properties. Our owner has, probably over 150 properties just himself. Uh, some of our agents actually own properties. I have a property. So when I'm talking about the big picture, I'm actually can talk about more because I'm an actual owner
Mm-hmm.
of a property, and what, I could talk about what I have gone through,
That's
as an
always
owner.
nice to know. I mean, that's actually, I think that's really important to know. Not every good property manager has to own properties, but it's nice to know that at least the owner does, or somebody up high in the food chain understands.
That language, there's just, certain language that, owners uh, have, that because of the experience and because of what they've went through. And when one owner is talking to another owner, it's like, wow, we're on the same page, we're on the same team. We know what we're talking about. I understand your frustrations, I understand your problems, and that helps, because when, you know owners get frustrated with landlords get frustrated with, any one of many millions of things, um, and when you have that conversation with them, that, hey, I get that. I get that. And it does really help. Um, it, it's that conversation. It just makes it, go smoother. It's not like you're fighting so much at that point. It's not like you don't know where they're at. Even if it's a new experience that you didn't face as an owner, it's something similar that has happened. So you can still imagine that it's basically money coming out of your pocket, and we can all understand, how that works. So, we're on that same page, and it's not like it's another type of a business where, people complain about a product or a service, and, they have no idea, except they are salespeople for that product or service. And it's the same thing. If they do own that, if it's a car salesman and they own that car, when you do buy that car, they're going to tell you all the right buttons to push, how to sync your phone, how to get all that done. And somebody like me who buys a car, I need like all the help I can get. I don't even know to this day what these buttons are for in my car. Unless it's by accident and I pump the
Oh,
seat
that's how I
heater.
heard it's the heated steering wheel on. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my butt's feeling kind of warm. I must, crap. It's on high and low. Like, if I knew that, I would have just put it on low.
They do make it difficult
Oh my
sometimes.
goodness, it's crazy. But it's not is a business. Our business isn't rocket science. It's basically stuff that we know, um, but it's not really hard. And I think as property managers, uh, we make it harder than it needs to be as well. And that's, part of, I think, every property management company's struggles.
I do get that a lot from some of our property managers. Like, how do I respond to this, Alex, to this owner? I'm like, be honest.
Mhm.
Just be fucking honest with them. That's it. That's all. I mean, this is what happens. This in reality. Here's what you read in the book, and this is reality. And from this reality point of view, we can do this, we can do this, or we can do this. If we do this, A, there's 7 things that can happen there. If we do B, there's 6 things that can happen there. If we go the route of C, there's 5 things that can happen there. And you have decisions to make. All you're here for is to help them make decisions. You don't make decisions for them.
Right.
But when you don't have the years of experience that I have, it's hard for them to. But I just say, just be honest. Just
Mhm.
just be absolutely honest. As long as you're doing your job and you're not screwing up,
Right.
and just be honest.
Yeah, you have to
Okay,
be
that's the first and foremost.
that communication is key. And not only
Communication
with the
number
property
number one.
manager and with the owner, as much as even with the tenant. Just
Mhm.
being able to communicate um, in so many circumstances, to where, again, life happens, right? So you have a good tenant, they've been paying, and boom, they lose their job. They're looking for another job. But if you have that communication with them, and right off the bat aren't saying, okay, you don't have a job, eviction.
I'll tell you a story about it. It's one of these hedge funds that came in. Do you manage for any of those kind of companies?
Yeah, we have some, but yeah, some big
So
companies.
boy, they're something to deal with. They have a lot of layers.
Mhm.
And the one guy, he
The guy
came
that
in.
you're talking to isn't always the guy that
Oh man, he's
doing
just like,
things.
well, this is how we do our evictions. If they're not paid by a tenth, we just freaking this and we do this. I'm like, "Dude, no, you don't do that here.
Yeah.
I mean, you go in front of some magistrates and they're like, how late are they? Oh, they're 15 days late. Get the hell out of here. They're not going to see you unless they're even a month behind.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're wasting our time. So yeah, some of these hedge funds, man, I don't know, they crash and burn in our area, and there's more coming. So, well,
Yeah.
we talked about that earlier about everybody coming to Pittsburgh and, Cleveland and Columbus and all these pockets across the United States that when someone from San Francisco says, what, you can buy a house here for $50,000,
Mhm.
that house is a $500,000 in San
Oh
Francisco.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
then they just open up their wallet, and I'm
Yeah.
like, don't do that because you can
Right.
get into trouble here too, even if you're spending 50,000.
Yeah. Even in the Pittsburgh market to, compared to our market, which is, a little more in the suburbs, just the differences in the areas and even sometimes in the county or a lot of times people will say a certain city or a certain town for some reason they heard that's the hot spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And even within a town, the rent prices can be dramatically different from one side of the town to the other side of the town. And
So true.
they
So true.
they're looking at the concept of it. And again, you could just tell a lot of people aren't looking at the numbers or haven't worked out the numbers. And of course, we need to really just encourage people to really sit down and make sure they work through the numbers.
We had an owner because they wanted to increase the rent. It's $800 rental. They wanted to jump it up to 1,000. And property manager asked me, "Is this a good idea?" I'm like, "Man, no, because the property is worth maybe 9.
Mhm.
So and you have a good tenant in there. Raise their rent $50. We'll raise it $50 next year. If you raise it 200, you're going to lose a tenant. You're going to lose a month, 2, 3, 4 months,
Mhm.
maybe longer
Yeah.
because you want top rent.
Yeah.
And so by that little decision to make an extra 200 a month is probably not going to happen, number one. And number two, it's going to cost you 800 times 6 months,
Mhm.
$5,000.
Right.
And then again, you're just supplying the information,
Yeah.
and then you make the decision. But I'm just telling you, A, B, or C, and these are the things that can happen if you make those decisions.
Yeah.
And that's,
And
that's
then,
what,
and you look on some of the listing sites and they sent, say the
yeah,
rent.
she went on rentometers, what she was, and I'm
Okay.
like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
We manage about 100 units within 5 miles of that property. I said, that's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
So,
what they're saying. And that's their
oh, here's
expectation.
a good one you can use for people when they use that. The Zestimate, the Zillow
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, tell them to look up how much Zillow makes a year. They lose like billions of
Yeah.
dollars.
They're so right so often that they make all this money.
So you're using Zestimate. Did you look at Carvana? They lose billions and Zillow loses billions. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't bank on, trust guys like Joe and myself and the property managers that are in the trenches every day. They're going to know, they're going to be able to lead you down the right path. I think it's a good gauge for things, but like you said, one street, and I always use the analogy of Mount Washington.
Mm.
You could be on Grandview and your property's worth $1 million. You could be one street back and it's worth 400,000. That's the same with rent.
Yeah.
That's an extreme example, but
No, it's there and it's in every town. It's and the value of a property manager, really at the end of the day, and we don't apologize ever for pricing because of that amount of knowledge. And again, like I said, I always turn in a pricing issue to how much is your time worth? And that usually, takes that away. But as soon as a property manager starts apologizing for price or doesn't have that answer or that attitude, you kind of almost have to have a little bit of attitude that, I'm the expert. in this area. Our company is the expert in the area. So that's what you're paying for. And in other professions, that's how it is. You don't ask the doctor to give you a discount on your appendicite, getting your
True.
appendix out. Could you, yeah, I can only, yeah, I'll
Hey
give you a
doc, you
discount.
sure you're doing that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I'll charge you 20% less, but
Yep.
I'll only take out, 80% of your appendix. Is that fair?
Give me a discount
Yeah.
as they're in there with your tweezers and
Right. Exactly.
sewing you back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have people beat you up much on pricing, or do you guys cave at all? Do you?
No, I mean, our agents don't, I certainly don't. The owner, doesn't, either. We've had a real strong stance on that from the get-go. And I think that's the key is, like I talked about, having that attitude. You don't want to be conceited for sure.
Well, let me ask you this: if you have, because I'm taking on a client and his property's probably going to rent for $2,000, I'm not going to charge him 10%. Do you guys do you have a firm stance on that?
We
Because
pretty
it's a
much,
really nice property. It's a single family home in like Mount Lebanon. That's where it is located. I'm like,
yeah,
I would probably charge him 7 or 8.
yeah.
You know,
We do try to take a firm stance, but if every case is different, so that's always the owner's decision if he wants to decide to
right?
work something out. And we also try to do that. We've become more like we have our rent increases every year and stuff like that. And I think, like you mentioned a little bit, is when that renewal comes up, I know for my property, let's say, I'm not going to charge what our company would charge. Um, Sometimes there's programs out there that offer you incentives uh, for fixing up your property, things like that, and they'll put a cap on what you can actually you know charge for increases. But I always like to, uh, of course, you don't bring it up in the renewals. But if it's a matter of, like you said before, about somebody leaving because of a too high of a rent increase, that is just you can't take a firm stance on that because
True. You can't.
you just
And it's case by case. Here's a good example. I want to raise my rent $200. Okay. When that tenant moves out, I'm just picking a scenario. It's not the specific one we talked about, but when that tenant's been in there 17 years, what do you think it's going to cost you to get that ready again? Oh, I don't know. Cause I'm doing one right now. It's $20,000. It's going to cost you $20,000.
Mhm.
So you want 220 plus you're going to lose 6 months rent or longer, cause we have to rehab it. You need to do the math.
Mhm.
It's really simple. We're talking like 6th grade math.
Yeah.
Just do the math, and then sure, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But sometimes, yeah, I did a short podcast on it, 8 minutes or so, about sometimes raising rent will lose you money. But I never did it, Joe, to be honest with you. I never raised rents, man, for 25 years. And then the past 5, every one of my tenants, most of them get an increase,
Mhm.
and not a huge increase. It would be $30 or $50,
Mhm.
but it makes a big impact on my cash flow because I wasn't making a whole lot of money, to be honest with you. People
And,
think because you own property, you're wealthy, and
yeah.
you're not.
And things
So
cost more for everybody now.
they
So
do.
I mean, you do want to be cognizant of the tenant's situation, and
Yeah, I like to be fair. I
yeah,
mean,
and be
really, I
fair.
like the fair. Not don't be an ass and don't be greedy, but you
Right.
have to be fair to the both. Like you said, win-win. It has to be a win.
That's a big win-win, and the owner has increased expenses too, right? Because any of the repairs they're doing cost more than they did 5 years ago, right? So
Plus, as a property management company, like you raised the rent, this would be a $50 increase. I didn't even think about it. It's raising rents was something I thought, okay, I need to do that because I own property. But then I thought about, shoot, we're not only we're going to raise the rents, which we should. There should be a cost of living raise of some sort. We're going to make more money for our owners, makes them happy because we get a lease renewal fee. We charge a fee for renewing leases. but we're going to make more money every month too on the management side. So we're getting paid 10%. It's $5 more a month on
Mhm.
$50 times 700 units. It's a substantial amount of money for not doing much more work, and you're doing your job for your owners.
Right. And everything costs more for the companies now, right? And unless you're using, you know, a large amount of technology, and depending on your software and what other, processes that you have going, uh, gosh, everything just seems, to cost more. It costs more for the agents to go out and show properties, right? When gas was higher, it was an increase, across the board. So, who eats that cost? And everything, I do like to, think of it again, because the big picture mentality is, what's profitable, and a lot of times, tenants don't get it, owners don't get it, or our own agents don't get it, but, even as a company, uh, we have to try to, be profitable, right? If we're not a government agency, right? We are a for-profit, company. And
Do you ever have owners that don't want to kick somebody out? We have a few of those.
yeah, and again, like you said before, every case is different, right?
We're
So
talking like $8,000 past due rent. He's like, no, I don't want to get rid of them. I'm like, well, first of all, we're working for free.
yeah, at this point,
We are working for free because, we have to, and we'll go to an eviction and they won't let us evict them. And I'm like, I think we've actually fired a couple hunters like that. And I said, what are you doing? Let us get rid of them. I'd rather have it empty,
mhm,
and they're just like,
yeah,
what are you thinking?
at the end of the day, our business is dealing with so many people, right? We are dealing with, again, if you have 700 properties, 800 properties, you're dealing with, two, 300 different owners typically. And then of course, 700 or 800 different tenants. So
We had a guy call,
my,
we had a guy the other night. He sends out a nasty email to my wife, who sent out a really nice professional letter. And it said something to the fact of, make sure you pay your rent to this PO box and this and that. And he was like off over the roof, like freaking out. And then he apologized the next day. My wife's reading this email. I was like, what did this guy read? What, Alex, look at this. What did I? Because he was like, you treat me like a child. And we didn't know the guy had a drinking problem, and he was pretty much blitzed out of his mind.
yeah, yeah.
Emails. So,
Even if you're not
oh,
blitzed, I mean, it's such an emotional
oh
game
man.
that, again, you're dealing with so many people. It's a really dirty, I always say this is a really dirty business. And you have to, we tell our employees all the time, no matter what, and it's hard. I know it's hard when you're getting that seventh phone call in a row with, somebody who's blitzed and somebody who's angry and somebody, all these different issues. And it's so hard to pick up that phone and just be, reasonably nice to them, because you're already thinking, oh crap,
Oh,
this is number,
oh man, it's tough.
what am I getting?
Mm.
What is this? You see the phone and you almost like you're trying to look at the person through the
I'm
phone.
telling you, if Mother Teresa did property management, she'd be MFing people by the end of
I,
the first
I,
year.
yeah, I think she'd probably sell. Yeah, she would probably, yeah.
She'd be MFing people by maybe the first week. I don't know.
It's crazy. It takes it takes special people, just kind of like nurses, how nurses are and dealing
Yeah.
with so
Oh
many
man,
people.
my daughter's a nurse. That's a rough job too, man.
It's a rough job, but we have to, again, and I know it's hard, but we have to pretend like that, person on that phone call or that nasty email that you get. You just have to try to put yourself in their shoes first to see, uh, if it's something that they're going through, if it's legitimate, where they're coming from, and if you can do that, uh, not only does it help the situation, it kind of helps your situation, because you're you're taking a look at, hey, what if that was me, right? I know it seems like a minor thing and it could be done
Point.
next week,
It's a
but
good point.
it's important to me because,
Yeah.
it's just, how would you feel?
Sometimes it's just hard. Like you said, it's really hard. If you have a bad day and they had a bad day, then you're just like, oh man.
It's like a boxing match. It's like
Yeah.
watching, Ali Frazier. And
You know what else I noticed is if you just let it go till the next day,
Mhm.
man, I tell you what, I don't know the percentages, but I'm going to say 75% of the time it just works itself out. Like
Yeah.
you don't even have to do anything. It just the next day it's like with that guy, he apologized
Mhm.
because so sometimes you have to not respond, try to put it out of your mind, and then if it's an emergency, you got to respond. But
Yeah,
something like that, he was just
I always try to say that, whatever can be done to diffuse the situation is primary. It's like, putting out, a fire, all the time. And again, if you just got 6 nasty phone calls and the seventh, and it is another nasty call, um, if you just, at least if you take the call and you say, hey, you know what? I don't have the answer for that yet. I will get back with you.
it's the communication.
It's that
Yeah.
communication, and that sometimes will, like you said, diffuse itself by the next day, and that person will, will calm down and say, hey, you know what, that thing that happened, boy, I was really upset, but gosh, 3 other things happened to them between then and the next day to, kind of tick them off.
It's not an easy job. It's a tough job being a property manager. I give my hats off to all the ones that work for me and all the ones out there that do a good job. And just know this, that the owner's never happy because you're usually calling them with bad news. You're usually spending their money, not on purpose, but you have to fix a water tank or do this or do that. And the tenants are never happy because you just don't get back to them in time or they're nitpicking. It's very rare. No, we do get a tenant that says, man, you're the best property management company. We want to leave this unit, but we'd like to rent from you. Those are really nice to hear.
Mhm.
And it's nice to have an owner say, you know what, thanks, you guys work really hard.
Yeah, and
And
it doesn't happen
it doesn't, but I mean, it
very
doesn't.
often,
I'm
but
sure nurses the same way, attorneys, doctors. I'm sure a lot of people don't say thank you enough. It's far and few between. So I really, I make it a point to let some of my owners know, you better say thanks to this property manager because they did a hell of a job for you.
Mhm.
And a thanks will go a long way than a nasty email about something that is irrelevant.
Right.
You're not. So anyway, so Joe, Premier Property Management based out of Beaver Falls. I have 2 other offices. And how does someone reach you, Joe? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, Premier Property Management Services. Contact us. Our phone is 724-847-2728. Always can go on our website. It is rentwithpremier.com. Check us out. We talk plenty about what we do and how we do things, and a lot of really good information that we try to provide up front for everybody. So feel free to check us out. If there's anything we can do to help, give us a call.
I appreciate you coming in. I asked Joe to come in just to talk, to chat, and he was very nice to say yes and gracious to come in here and give up his time. They do a great job. They've taken over a couple properties for us that we just could not do a good job for the owner just because of distance or the lack of resources out that way. And you've already referred some business to us, and we couldn't help them because it was too far for us east.
Right.
So I do appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good day, buddy.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yep.